Chug, 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 chug. So that's something rather annoying that we've been dealing with, is how the water pump will cycle on and off. Like that. I don't know if you can hear it very well or not. I'll put the camera by the pump. It's not really a problem, it's just annoying. So I think I might have come up with a solution for this. Okay, so now the camera is mounted underneath the bed in the front bedroom, pointing at the water pump. I'm gonna go open up the faucet so you can hear how it sounds. One of the really annoying things is that the pump is under the bed. So if somebody's trying to sleep and the other person's trying to use the faucet or take a shower, you have to deal with this sound. Okay, so after a little bit of research online, I came up with this. This is an RV accumulator tank. It's almost the same thing as a thermal expansion tank that I had to install inside the house because we had some water heater problems. Basically all it is the top half here has a bladder in it. And you pressurize this with air, and the bottom half gets pressurized with water from the pump. This comes pre-pressurized at 20 psi. And you're supposed to pressurize it to the same pressure as your water system, but when you're not using it, the RV's being stored, winterized, whatever, it should only be at 20 psi. So I think when I initially install this, I'm just going to leave it at 20 psi and see how it works. It's said to quiet down the pump and smooth out the water flow from the pump to keep it from cycling on and off. This was about $40, so I figured, whatever, I'll try it. And it comes with 2 rubber washers that goes in the inlet and the outlet side. There's 2 ways to install this. You can run water in one side and out the other, or you can cap one side and just tee it into your water system. For ease of installation, which I'll show you, I'm just going to run the water in one side and out the other, and it is not directional. It does not matter which way the water flows through it. To make this as easy of an install as I could think of, I came up with this. I have 2 1/2" by 2" long nipples. One's going to go on one side and one's going to go on the other side. Like this. And then I have a flexible water supply line. This one is stainless. I really wanted to get one that was just white vinyl, but this is all they had at our local hardware store. This is 1/2" to 1/2" on both ends. So I'm going to have the water supply line from the pump come into one side, and then from the other side it's going to go to the water system. And to make this really easy with no special tools required, all you have to do is just thread the ends on. Because you have these rubber washers that go inside here, you're not going to need to seal the ends at all. And then the ends of the flexible line have a rubber seal or gasket inside. So again, you're just going to thread it on and tighten it, and you should be good to go. Now this flexible line is 20 inches or 24 inches long. I wanted one shorter, but again, it's all they had, so it's what I'm gonna use. And like I said, I paid $40 for the accumulator tank, and then for those 2 1/2" nipples and the flexible hose, I paid a total with tax $12.81. So here's the thermal expansion tank that I have mounted on top of our water heater in our house for comparison. You can see how tiny the shureflow is for the RV in comparison to the expansion tank that is on the water heater. Before you start, make sure you turn the pump off. Make sure you do not have city water connected. Next step, relieve any water pressure in the water system. Just open the faucet. So here I have lifted up the bed in the front bedroom because this is where the water pump is located. Alright, I got the camera set up the best I can. I got the best lighting I can. It's a pretty small cramped area to work in. So the first thing I'm going to do is decide where I want to mount this tank at. Now in the instructions it says to mount the tank so that this nipple is facing up, which makes it easiest for winterization and sanitization of your water system. So I've got this, I don't know what you want to call it. They kind of dressed up the interior in here. I guess it's because of the trim level of the camper. But they got this woodwork in here. Up along this top here, you got a solid piece of wood. Down here it's not. It's just this real thin wood. So what I think I'm going to do is probably mount this somewhere right about here. That way the nipple's facing up, the connections are on the bottom, and it'll be up out of the way, and I'll be able to get to that nipple pretty easily to check the pressure or add pressure to it. So the first thing we're going to do is look at our water pump. On this side, which you probably can't see from there, I have it's like a clear plastic bowl with a water strainer in it. So that's the inlet side. This side with the flexible hose on it is the outlet side. So I'm going to remove this, which is probably just hand tight. And it is. And a little bit of water will come out. To clean up any of this leaking water, I just have a washcloth. I'm just going to kind of soak it all up as it comes out. So if I mount this accumulator here, this hose can connect on this side here. So I'm going to take this flexible hose that I bought, and let's just screw this on, make sure it fits. I'm just going to kind of dry fit everything before I tighten everything down. Okay, so the flexible hose is attached. So I'm thinking if I mount it just like this right here, then this can attach to the pump. So this can mount here, flexible running to the pump, which is, the pump pumping the water from here to the tank. And then this flexible hose that goes to the water system can attach here on this side. Just like that. Okay, so here in my hand are the two little rubber washers that came with the accumulator tank. Just going to take the nipple off, place the washer inside, and reinstall the nipple. Same thing for the other side. Put the washer in, reinstall the nipple. So I'm going to use this little tiny set of channel locks. I'm not trying to get them tight because this is plastic, it'll break. I'm just trying to snug it up. Next step, I'm going to attach it to the wall. Okay, I'm ready to mount this. So the screws I'm going to use, I just went into the garage and just started looking around at what I had, and I've got some of these. Now they are a self-tapper. They're a small self-tapper screw with a Phillips head on it. I don't need self-tappers for in here. All I really need is a wood screw, but this is what I got, so that's what I'm gonna use. I generally don't do much work with wood, so I don't have a big selection of screws. I usually work a lot with steel, so I have nuts and bolts and things like that. But it's gonna have to work. So I'm gonna put it right about here. one side. So now that that's mounted up, I can make my connections. So this is the flexible hose that goes to the water system. This just attaches to a piece of PEX and goes down to the floor. Alright, we're halfway there. Okay, so now I've got this flexible supply line. Like I said before, 24 inches was longer than what I wanted, but it's what they had. You can see really the distance between the two aren't that far. But now this is specific to my installation. Your installation could vary. Really, you can install this accumulator tank anywhere in the system. It doesn't matter. This is just where I have the most space and it's the most convenient place to get to. Then the other end goes to the pump. Okay, I'm going to wipe up any remaining water. That when I turn the pump on, I can tell if there's any leaks or not. So what I'm going to do is grab my tire pressure gauge. And I'm going to check the pressure of the expansion tank. And then we'll turn it on, get the air out of the system, and see how it works. Okay, so I have just your run-of-the-mill, cheapy Walmart tire pressure gauge. I'm going to take the cap off here. And the instructions say to make sure you always have the cap on it to keep it from leaking. Pressure gauge. And it's pressurized to about 24 psi, which is good enough. Like I said, I'm just going to try it at the pre-charge setting, and I can adjust it from there. If you ever need to put air in it, use a bicycle tire pump. Don't use an air compressor. Alright, I'm going to turn the pump on and see what happens. Alright, the pump is on, and it does not appear that we currently have any leaks. Alright, I worked all the air out of the lines, and it seems like it did help quite a bit. The chugging, the chug is gone now. It really evened out the water flow, even when it's wide open. And the pump doesn't run constant anymore when it's wide open. And then the other thing I noticed too is when the pump would run before, I was getting a lot of vibration or water hammering through the PEX lines. You'd hear it under the sink rattling and shaking, and that's completely gone. Sounds like the pump is just a tiny bit quieter, but it didn't make that big of a difference. Okay, so the camera is set up now, shooting directly across the bed where we sleep. So I'm going to go out in the kitchen and open up the faucet. And when the pump kicks on, we can see if it's any quieter or not. Well, that installation's done. I think it did make a difference. It did quiet the pump down a little bit. It most definitely smoothed out the water flow. Would I buy it again just to make the pump quieter? No, I probably wouldn't, because it only made a very, very small difference in the noise in the pump. Overall though, I'm happy with it. And it was really easy to install. Didn't need any special tools. It took maybe half hour. Half hour to get it installed is not bad. So after trying it out with the preset, they say 20 psi, but I checked it and it was 24 psi. I'm going to up that pressure to, I'm going to try it 40, see what 40 psi is like. So to do so, like I said before, use a bicycle pump. This is a pump we had out in the garage. We got it at Walmart. It was pretty inexpensive. Add pressure, take the cap off. Oh, and I did turn the pump off, and I opened the faucet to relieve all the pressure before I did this. That way you know what the pressure is in that bladder without pressure, water pressure behind it, changing that number. So we got it aired up to about 35 psi. Now with the added pressure in the accumulator tank, I'm going to check the bathroom faucet. So with the added pressure, it didn't really seem to change anything. It did, I mean, still the pump seems like it's a tiny bit quieter, and the water flow is evened out, and the pump doesn't have to run as much. It seems to come on and then it goes off. You know, come on, it'll cycle on and off rather than just staying on like it did before.